Hi everyone. As you can tell, I've been working on the old, what they say was an 1866 railroad depot built by the Marietta in Cincinnati, which became the B&O in Southern Ohio. And when the Chillicothe and the railroad decided to move the depot down East Main Street, they left this building here, built a new depot down there because it was a union depot. Served both the N&W and the B&O. So the grain elevator took it over. So before my friend Trent gave me some close-up photos, all I had were pictures similar to this. I knew it was board and batten, but I couldn't really see a lot of details on it. So I went ahead and proceeded. I knew with the map, the Sanborn map, it was about 36 by 24, best I could figure. I know in the back it does not, in the front it lines up pretty well with the front, but in the back there is a gap 4 or 6 foot. I thought it was 24 feet is what I decided it would be. So this is this wall here. These windows are either just sitting in there or tacked in. I'm going to take them all out. I have to paint them with white spray paint. If I paint them with that light gray paint, it won't match up. So I paint all the windows separately. I'll put them on a piece of upside down tape and spray them all white. And then when I put them back in here and spray paint the building, they all come out the same color, just like the building was. So this is that wall. This is the back wall. And Trent's photos showed me how the windows and stuff were laid out. This is the wall that goes against the elevator. Don't need to be board and batten. You're not going to see it. This is the little wall right here underneath that overhang, and this window is right here, and these two pieces fit together like this, and that is you can't really see it. They fit together like that, and that is the little porch or overhang there. So I had one more wall to go. Oh, by the way, this cutout is because I have a brace on the back of this wall, because when you cut that many holes in a piece, it's really flimsy, and so I just glued a brace on there to keep that straight. So I've got one more wall to cut out, which is this wall right here, which looks like it has a window, a door, and then 3 little windows, sort of like that, in it. So I turned to Trent's pictures and found a problem. So as you can see very clearly, this section of the wall is not board and batten. It's some type like tongue and groove or something. In the distance pictures, I just assumed it was all board and batten, but it's obviously not. So I thought, well, is the back the same way? Yes, it is. The back was the same way. I don't know if they built this little section later. Maybe the depot was much smaller at one time, and then they built this little section to connect the two buildings. I don't know, but it's obviously different. My solution for the back is probably just to ignore it, because you're not going to be able to see it. But here I think I'm going to have to go with some different type of siding for this little section, which is going to complicate it a little bit. That's going to be a little weak, but I'll show you what I think I can try to do here. I looked at my scratch building box, and I found this piece of styrene. It's probably supposed to represent metal siding or something, but it has those little lines on it, and that's about as close as I'm going to be able to come. I don't even know if you can see it in the video. There you go, you can probably see it. So I'm going to make this last wall out of this. Again, this little section should be the same way. Think I'm going to ignore it. I've already got that part done, and this part is actually going to be hidden. If you remember the photo that I showed you of Trent took, he actually took it at an angle. He was like looking in this way at it because he would have had to trespass to get in. Because there is a building here that was the truck unloading building here. So I don't think I'm going to necessarily worry about that. I do want to show you something I had to do because of this. I've got the 2 windows here, and I've got the 3 on the front. They don't make anything like that I could find. So what I did was I took these I'll pop these out. These are actually 2 windows, and they're supposed to go, I don't know what you call it, like the sill or whatever. They were supposed to actually sit like this, you know, like that in a building. So what I did was I sanded them flat so the little lip on the windowsill didn't stick out, and then I butt jointed them together, and I put a little piece of styrene in there to hold them together, and I think it will represent the 2 windows there. And I'm going to have to do the same thing for the 3 windows that are there. I have to put a 3rd one in there. So that was my solution to that. Again, you know, I have trouble calling this a scale model because I have no idea how big the windows were. Yeah, I've got an educated guess by how big the building is, but I don't really know how tall it is. I just made it sort of similar the way it looks right to me. And, you know, again, the width says 24, but when I showed that picture with the indentation in the back, you know, maybe it was actually 26 wide. So anyhow, I think people will recognize it and say, well, that's the, you know, the building. But, you know, so when I make some progress on this, I'll show you that. But I thought you might appreciate knowing, sort of seeing, you know, how it's done. Another thing I do to keep all the windows lined up, because I think, you know, you don't want your window height to be 3 feet above the ground, 4 feet above the ground. Usually the bottom of the windows, if you look at a house or something, they're usually all about the same height. So what I do was I figure out the height I want, and I just, you know, make a line, and I just like use the same line across all of them. You know, when I'm going to make the next wall, I'll butt it up against there, and I'll draw a line there to make sure that the windows, you know, line up height-wise. Yeah, so maybe you can see it on, well, that window came out. So, but anyhow, they all line up. Again, these are just stuck in there. And I always cut small and work my way out. And I don't care if it's a perfectly square hole when I'm done, as long as the window sits in there square and I can glue it in. You're not going to know whether it's actually square or not. But you see the bottom of the windows are the same height across the whole building. Anyhow. So I'm going to show you where a little bit more on the elevator section, and that'll be it for this update. Before we get to the elevator, I got to looking at the photos. The roof is just too steep. I sort of copied it off the Oak Hill Depot, but it's just too steep. So I decided I would take 2 feet off the peak and trim it down, make it look more like the real depot. Again, I don't have a building there I can measure. I'm just working off old photos. So this is the result. I like this a lot better. So I'm going to do that to the other 2 peak sections also. So now let's talk about the elevator. Here's the dust collector mounted on the building. It's not a perfect match. It's the one that was on the building, maybe a little bit taller. Looked exactly like an ice cream cone. It didn't like have a taper at the bottom and then go flat, but it serves the purpose. Another thing I had to do is I had to modify it a little bit. Standard elevator didn't have this pipe at the top sticking way out to the side. So I cut that off completely, and then I swiveled it around. So it does have a pipe from the top going into the building, but you really can't see it up underneath there anyhow. And those little side supports were a pain in the butt, I'll tell you that. The other thing I did to this was I just thought that the red stuck out way too much. You know, the only picture you could even really see it in was the one picture. So I just dry brushed some gray over it so you can still tell that it was there, but it looks a lot more like it probably did. All right, that's it for this update. Everybody stay safe.